Okay, good morning, everybody. How's it? Okay, before I get started, so what do you guys do? You, you guys work all for the state, or mostly private contractors? All state, private contractor? You guys all supervisor? Or you guys actually the guys that do the work? You guys are workers then, yeah? Okay, because I get two different ways of presenting this. I can either talk to the supervisors about all the high muckety muck stuff that's supposed to be, or I can talk to you guys about what is real. Okay, so we'll keep it real today. All right, so going back to your question about the legislation. Okay, legislation basically allows officers to citate or issue a citation if somebody violates a law, right? Legislation comes out, a law gets created. But the question comes in, how do they enforce that law? Right? Like for instance, several years ago, they passed a law about kids on skateboards, bicycles supposed to wear a helmet, right? How many of you guys go home each day and you see the kids in the streets riding bicycle, no more helmet? Right? Every day. I see it every day on my street. But there's a law for it, but why don't people do it? Okay? Same thing with this law with slowing down next to blue lights or getting one lane over. How are they going to enforce that? Okay.
There's a law.
Okay, well, let me continue with that thought. Okay, so give you an example with roadside construction. Okay, I work for a company called GP Roadway Solutions. We are hired by contractors and the state to provide traffic control services, well, for people working on the road. Right now, today, just my company alone, we are at 25 different job sites setting up traffic control. We have 12 or 13 jobs with state highways right now, today, following the guardrail crew, landscaping crew, on and on. That's just the state. Then we have guys that are paving, point telephone, what have you. That's just the traffic control that our company does. Then a lot of you guys know you do your own traffic control. A lot of private contractors do their own traffic control, and on and on. Any given day, there's over 100-something traffic control set up, yeah? The police will not be able to monitor all that, right? I mean, they would spend all their day trying to monitor motorists going through traffic control zones. So even if there was a law passed that included roadside work, you shouldn't rely on that as your mechanism for safety. Although it might make you feel better, really, you need to approach traffic control and working on the side of the road as if the people driving by could care less if you're there or not. I mean, that's the reality of it. You just cannot assume anything when you're out on the road. For instance, every day when I drive, I tend to go a little bit above the speed limit. How many of you guys are in the same boat? Speed limit 55, you find yourself doing about 58, 59. I mean, technically you're breaking the law, right? But, no harm, right? Okay. But we all kind of break the law a little bit, bend the rules a little bit. Motorists are the same way. Everybody got a good excuse why they're going to go a little bit faster, why they're going to ignore this law. Why do parents not put a helmet on their kid when the kid is out riding a bike? What's going to happen? When I was a kid, we never wore a helmet. Or whatever the excuse is, right? So my presentation today is geared towards what you should do to try to keep yourself safe, not assuming that just because you put up a sign, the motorist is going to care if you're there or not. And that's the reality of it. Most people will respect the signs, the cones, and understand that the people working on the side of the road are trying to do a job and want to be safe. But like most people that I know, when they go out driving, they want to get from point A to point B without getting into an accident. Right? Most people you know are pretty much responsible, yeah? Most people I know read the newspapers, they're educated, they kind of know what's going on. But there's always that 1 in 100 that's out there, right? You're not really trying to protect yourself against the majority of the drivers, right? You're trying to protect yourself against the 1 or 2 that's coming along that really don't care, right? You know, like take a couple of years ago on Fort Weaver Road when the 2 electricians got run over at 10 o'clock in the morning while working on the side of the road. 20 feet off of the roadway, 10 o'clock, bright, nice, sunshiny day, 2 guys get run over. How is that possible? Because the guy driving the van was high on ice. So what are you going to do? You know? There's people out there that drive when they're drunk, drive when they're angry, drive when they're on drugs, drive when they're fatigued. Before this weekend, the last officer that got run over, the guy that was driving ran him over. Why? Fell asleep at the wheel. What kind of law is going to protect you from a guy falling asleep? Nothing, right? Okay, so that's the reality of it. How do we get idiots off of the road? That's a hard one. Police spend a lot of time trying to do that. That's why they set up DUI checkpoints and what have you, yeah? So a lot of it's just going to come down to, if anything, education of the public. You know, if the state could put forward money and put out public service announcements to, you know, like they have, what are some of their public service announcements? Click it or ticket. Okay, you guys see these things, yeah? You know, hopefully through those types of things, education happens and it does get safer out there. But until then, or even up through then, you guys got to do the corrective steps to keep yourself safe when working on the road. Okay, and let's get into some of that now. I was supposed to start at 7:30, so I'm already 45 minutes behind, but try to make up some of the time. Okay, so anyway, I'm the Oahu Rentals Manager. Oh, sorry, somebody got to get that? I'm in charge of the traffic control division at GP Roadway. I started doing traffic control in 1980. After I got out of high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, and I kind of found a job with a company called Safety Systems back in 1980. I started off scrubbing cones, building barricades, cleaning the office, and I kind of worked my way up from there. So I'm living proof that you do not have to be very smart to understand traffic control. Okay? And I don't expect you guys to memorize this. What we go through is going to be in the book. We're talking on chapter 4. That book is yours to keep, and there will be a little quiz at the end. And like I said, I'm not very smart, so we're going to keep it open book, yeah? All right? So don't be nervous about it. Just follow along, and all the answers are right in front of you. Okay, so our course objectives today are to find out, discuss the fundamentals of traffic control, what factors affect traffic control, like speed limit, traffic volume. What is a traffic control plan? Our quiz, our hands-on thing, we're actually going to draw a traffic control plan. Okay? We're going to discuss what different types of traffic control devices there are, channelizing devices, typical roadside applications, and we'll, like I said, the group activity will be to draw the traffic control plan. Plus there will be a quiz. Okay, so some of the basic principles. Why do you do traffic control? As they're listed in this book, basically when you go out to do traffic control, a lot of guys think, hey, you know what, we go close off extra lane to slow the traffic down. Okay, true, that will slow down the traffic, but will that make the motorists more mad when there's traffic? Yeah, you're going to piss off the motorists, yeah? Maybe not the best thing, because, I don't know, have you guys had stuff thrown at you when you're doing traffic control? Guys throw bottles, plate lunch, whatever at you? Soda bottles? Okay, it happens to my guys all the time, especially when they're flagging. They stop cars. When the people pass by, they throw stuff at our guys. So best not to piss off the people, you know? Provide positive guidance for both pedestrians and the motorists. After you set up traffic control, do you guys set up your own traffic controls? Used to? None? Now you guys hire us, yeah?
What's the guys?
Yeah?
You can talk to the guys on Saturday, man. I think it's fun.
Okay,
I'll talk to you after.
no problem. Um, so basically it comes down to training and keeping the public informed, and don't leave traffic control devices out when they're not necessary, yeah? Basic principles. I mean, if you look in the manual on uniform traffic control devices, there's 2.5 pages dedicated to principles of traffic control. But that just kind of sums it up. Okay, the key things, though, that we're going to talk about mainly is visibility. Just like with your landscape maintenance zones, really you're trying to incorporate aesthetics with visibility, right? How much sight distance do you need from the road? Same thing with traffic control. How far away do the signs have to be seen by the motorist? How far away do the cones have to be spaced? That's going to, part of the, how much you set up is going to depend on the duration of the work. And if you're going to stay in one spot all day versus if you're mowing and you're just moving right along down the road, yeah, you don't have to set up the same type of traffic control. And the location of the work. If you're working immediately alongside the road, you're obviously going to put up more traffic control devices than if you're up on the hillside, yeah? So where you are and how long you're going to be there and what the road conditions are for visibility will affect what type of traffic control you need. Okay, so along the lines of visibility, to ensure that your traffic control is effective, number one, the driver's got to be able to see you. Through signs, message boards, arrow boards, they get their information. Signs tell the motorist what to do. And you use cones and other devices to guide them in a clear manner. And try not to set up stuff that gets confused. And later on I'll show you some pictures that will illustrate some of this. Okay, you as the worker, keep yourself visible. Like we said before, you must wear a minimum of a Class 2 high visibility vest if you're working on the road in the daytime and it's under 45 miles per hour. Anything outside of that, you're working nighttime where the speed limit is higher than 45, you need to wear a Class 3 vest. Basically, that's just the amount of reflective material and how much material is used to make the vest. Stay alert, face oncoming traffic at all, as much as possible. Now, that's kind of hard to do. That's mostly when you set up the traffic control, but when you're actually working, what are you paying attention to, your work or the traffic? Or you got to kind of look up, look down, but try to face oncoming traffic, especially when you're setting up cones and signs so you can see what's approaching you. And try to set up the traffic control with the motorist in mind, meaning put things so that you, the unsuspecting motorist, who are coming along, would make sense to you. Like where the signs are, you read it, you have enough time to react. And a lot of the traffic control that we're dealing with is about giving the motorist the reaction time, the opportunity to see something, cycle the information through the brain, and make a determination. For instance, why should a motorist slow down if you're only going to put 1 or 2 cones on the road? That doesn't look like high concern, yeah? But if you put a couple signs and several cones, maybe that commands their attention a little bit more. But where are you and what are you doing? And we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. Okay, so mainly visibility is your priority when doing traffic control. You setting up stuff so that drivers can see you, and you being visible to the driver. And a lot of that has to do with where you stand, where you park your trucks, and so on, yeah? Okay, so for instance, talking about visibility. Things that affect visibility, like hills. Are you working on the rise of the hill? You're working on the backside of the hill? In this picture, curves. Obstructions, shade and color contrast. Okay, now this is not a very good projector, but can you guys see the flagger? You see Brother standing right here? Okay, now this guy is standing next to a green bush wearing a green vest, yeah? Okay, now that doesn't offer much color contrast. Maybe if he was wearing an orange vest, he might be a little bit more visible, yeah? Okay, so, but at least he's standing out in the sun and not in a shady spot. Other things that affect visibility would be like, as I keep moving around, am I in your way? You okay? Okay. Weather, like sometimes you guys start working in the morning, nice clear day, by afternoon raining, yeah? The driver's visibility might be cut down, right? They cannot see so good in the rain. Plus they cannot drive so good in the rain, yeah? Have you guys ever been on a job where you started in the daytime, broke something, and you had to stay out until the nighttime until you fixed it? You know? If you do that, is the signs and stuff that you have out there reflective so that the motorists can see it? Or did you put out non-reflective stuff that is no good at night? Okay. Speed limit is going to affect your traffic control and visibility. The faster the cars go, the more devices you need and the further apart they have to be spaced. And we'll talk about that in a little while. And traffic volume. Okay, so now, typical things that go wrong. Number one, you're on a curvy road, yeah? Those are problem areas, especially if you're working around the curve. Now in this case, we have a guy flagging, and he's supposed to be controlling traffic for, I don't know if you can see it, there's a boom up here. Hawaiian Telephone is stretching new cable, and they're going from pole to pole, stringing up new wire. This guy was flagging for them. He's one of two guys. The other guy's on the other end. They were working along, going. Hawaiian Telephone was having a good day, or they're stringing along, and they just kept moving the traffic control as they went along. This first sign right here says road work ahead. Okay. Now, I don't know how much you guys know about traffic control at this moment, but typically when you have a guy flagging on the road, you're supposed to have advanced warning signs, road work ahead, one lane road ahead, and then the flagman sign, right? Give your motorists 3 signs to tell them there's going to be a guy standing here expecting you to stop. Okay? In this case, they kept moving. They passed the flagman sign, they passed the one-lane road sign, and here they are, right next to the road work ahead sign. Is this safe? Not at all, yeah? You're a motorist, you're coming down this curvy road, you see the road work ahead sign, and boom, there's the guy right there, yeah? Okay. But that's how work and accidents kind of go hand in hand in creating a problem. These guys were working, doing their thing, and what they had set up in the morning as a good, safe work zone disappeared as the work progressed. You know, in that instance, they should have told Hawaiian Telephone, hey, you know what, try stop. We got to move this traffic control stuff so that the motorists can see us, yeah? Okay, and this was an experienced guy, and he's supposed to know better, but he was just doing his thing. And this is one of my guys. So this is the kind of thing that can happen, though. But you know, when we talk about visibility, color contrast, green on green, yeah? Okay, so that's some of the stuff you guys got to keep in mind, especially you guys out doing landscaping, right? Maybe you might want to have orange vests instead of green vests for landscapers. You know, simple stuff, yeah? Okay, now as far as visibility goes, in the book there's the sight distance chart, and basically this tells you how much distance a motorist needs to see an object and react to it. And let's say, for instance, like you're flagging. If you're a flagger on a road and you're in a 25-mile-per-hour work zone, between you and the motorist should be 155 feet of sight distance. Okay? So let's say you're in a 25-mile-per-hour zone, the motorists are driving along, and you're flagging, just as an example. And say you're on a curvy road. if you don't have at least 155 feet of sight distance with the car, chances are when you turn the stop slow paddle to stop and tell the car to stop, they are not going to stop if you have less than 155 feet. Okay? So that's how speed and sight distance go hand in hand when working on the road. We'll get to another chart pretty soon. It tells you how far to space the signs and so on. But as far as sight distance goes, even like where you place the signs, if the motorists don't have, the higher the speed, the further the distance. If they don't have the appropriate time, which is distance, they don't have the proper spacing, they don't see the signs, that sign is basically useless because the motorists can't read it. And if they can't read it, they're not going to pay attention to it. So basically, you're putting up a sign for nothing, yeah? Now, like, I'll get into an example in a moment. Okay, so this is kind of important what we talked about. Whether you're mowing and just shooting them down the road, or let's say you're trimming a tree and you're going to be in one spot all day, cutting down a tree or whatever. Okay, you have different durations of work, all right? And those durations of work will dictate how much traffic control you need to set up. Okay, so the basic breakdown, there's 5 categories of duration. One is long-term stationary. And this is the kind full-on maintenance reconstruction projects where they stay in one location for 3 continuous days or more. And then, and we'll get into more examples of what each of those entail. The intermediate one is a location more than one daylight period up to 3 days. So in other words, you're going to go to the same spot every day for 3 or more days, or one nighttime period. And a nighttime period is if you're out on the roadway at night for more than 1 hour, that would be considered intermediate stationary. And I'll get to some examples of these as we go along. Short-term stationary is this is the most common one. You work in one set location for more than an hour. Short-term stationary, daytime, in one location more than an hour. A short duration, in one location up to an hour, then you move. Okay, and mobile operation, that's just moving along. Okay, now what that means, basically, on the long-term stationary, you know you're going to be there a long time. Like I said, 3 continuous days, yeah? That's when you got to start setting up barriers, maybe do restriping, and everything has to be reflective. And you know, that's one of those that takes a couple days to set up because you're going to be there day and night. And you go through all that effort because you're going to basically reconfigure the roadway. You know, if you're working in a duration or a location for a long-term duration, you need to go through more steps to protect the motorist. Okay, so long-term is when they set up everything, restripe, put up all the additional signs, everything. Okay, intermediate stationary, you're in one location up to 3 days. It might extend into the nighttime. So you want to make sure your devices are retroreflective. You know, cones on your collars. The sign is reflective sheeting. Typically, you do not need to redo the striping, not unless the motorists are confused or what you're setting up is going to conflict with the existing striping. But again, that's something an engineer would have to figure out. Pretty much that stuff you guys wouldn't have to figure out. And devices such as portable barriers may not be practical. I mean, you're not going to go through this much effort to set up a work zone if you're going to just be there during the day and leave, come back tomorrow and leave, yeah? You know, if you're just going to work, say in this instance on the bridge rail, a couple hours today, come back tomorrow, you're not going to go through the effort of blocking it off. But if you're going to completely remove the bridge rail and you're going to be there for a couple weeks because you took out the rail and you're going to replace it entirely, then you're going to go through that extra work. Okay. So it depends on the work you're doing, how long you're going to be there, yeah? Okay, this is the most common one, short-term stationary. You're going to be in place for more than an hour during the daytime, or in place less than an hour at night. Basically, it's set up and take down. Typical work time, 8:30 to 3:30, depends on what your permits are. And definitely you're going to put up advanced warning signs so that the motorists, as they travel down the road, they can see something's ahead. They get information, so when they approach the work area, they have the information and hopefully will react accordingly. This is probably the biggest problem that I see with a lot of the maintenance type work. A lot of guys, they figure, we're only going to be there a couple hours. They don't put up adequate signs. They don't put up adequate cones. And when you talk to a lot of people, guys like you and me, there's two reasons they don't put up the signs. A, they know more, right? They get sent out on the road to do something. They don't have the proper equipment. Or B, they haven't been trained and they don't know. Yeah? So if you don't have the equipment, no matter what I tell you today, if you don't have the equipment, pretty much you can't set it up, yeah? You know, this is where sometimes I get into trouble with supervisors because I teach these classes and I tell you guys, hey, you got to have these signs, you got to do this, you got to do this. You go back to work tomorrow and the boss tell you, hey, bro, just go. Oh, yeah, but the holy guy said. You know, what are you going to do, right? Okay, but see, that's where classes like this are put on. So hopefully everybody get on the same page. And like, you know, the idea is for you guys to go home at the end of the day safe, yeah? Come to work in the morning, do your job, go home at the end of the day, no problems, yeah? But that's where the conflict comes in, where you get told to go do something, but you don't have the right equipment, okay? Or you got the right equipment, but you figure, nah, you know what, bro, we just hurry up, then we go lunch. You know, kind of hard too, that way. Okay, so short-term duration. In one location, less than an hour. Sometimes it takes longer to set up the traffic control than it does to do the job. That's when you can simplify your procedures and the number of traffic control devices you need might be reduced. Like for instance, if you're going to be doing the, I don't know, lawn mowing on the side of the hill, you'll be in one spot, you're going to kind of move down. Maybe you put up a simple road work ahead, shoulder work ahead, and just move along with a strobe light on the truck. You know, short duration, less than an hour in one spot, you just kind of move along, yeah? So that type of stuff is allowed. And again, it depends on how long you'll be there and visibility. Because if the work is off to the side, basically you just want to give the motorist a heads up that something is there, yeah? A lot of accidents at work zones happen. Motorists drive along, there's no signs to tell them. All of a sudden they're like, oh, what's up? And their attention is diverted. You know, or what's another reason to put up, even if you're working on the shoulder, a little bit off to the shoulder, why you want to put up signs? Maybe pedestrians, bicyclists. Yeah, it depends on where you are, yeah? You know, if you're on, say, Kamehameha Highway instead of H1, you know, to let them know, maybe they might want to think about going to the other side, you know, keeping bicyclists or pedestrians safe. And you got to think about where you are too and who is affected by your traffic control. Remember I talked about the principles, yeah? We're not just motorists that we're concerned about, right? If you're doing a weed whacker, do you want pedestrians walking right next to you? Well, maybe you do, but maybe you shouldn't though, yeah? You know, they're going to get hit with flying debris and whatever, yeah? You know? But what, is the pedestrian, what, they're supposed to know though, yeah? Maybe not, you know? Okay, and then finally, mobile operation. Flaggers can be used for mobile operations, provided they set up the proper advanced warning signs. Warning signs need to be relatively close to the work area if they are going to be used. And you cannot put up shoulder work ahead, road work ahead, shoulder work ahead, start working here, and end up 8 miles down the road, yeah? Those two signs back there mean nothing, really, yeah? Okay, but like for mobile operations, that's where we have like this truck-mounted attenuator. We use stuff like this a lot for the pothole patching. We just go down the road, got the flashing arrow board on top. This with a police escort, and we do a lot of we use this on the freeway when they do pothole patching. If an automobile crashes into this truck, that attenuator will keep the driver from getting killed. You know, but you know, that's a total mobile operation. If you guys get questions along the way, go ahead and ask. I may not have the answer, but you can ask anyway. Okay, so going back to the factors affecting traffic control. Is it a 2-lane road or a multi-lane road? Are you going to be working on the shoulder, or are you going to encroach into the travel lane? For sure, if you're going to go into the travel lane, like say you got to work on the right lane, for sure you're going to put up signs and cones, yeah? Okay, I mean, you know. But some guys, they don't. You'd be surprised. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 plus years, and I'm surprised, really, there's not more people killed on the highway with their disregard for proper traffic control. Guys choose not to set up signs. They put 2 cones across the road and expect cars to be able to merge. You know, they call that a taper. Speed limit 45. They merge cars, no more the arrow board. You know, I am totally shocked that there's not more deaths on the highway than there is now, you know. Because I see a lot of guys cut corners because, good enough, no need. We're only gonna be here a short time, good enough. Hurry up, probably go. You know, or the boss sends you out, you don't have the stuff to do the job yet. You know, but hopefully through classes like this, the word will get out. The closer the work is to the road users, like bicyclists and pedestrians like we talked about, you should use more traffic control devices as well. Okay, so what is a traffic control plan? Basically, it's anything that communicates to the people involved what you're going to do with the traffic control. There are a lot of typical diagrams, and this information is available in all sorts of places. A traffic control plan is something that you can draw up. Like say your boss tell you, hey, you got to go work here. You guys talk about what you're going to do with traffic control. Draw something on a sheet of paper. You guys understand what you're talking about. Make sure you have the right equipment. You can share that with the crew and say, hey, here's what we're going to do. Sometimes there are, and this may not really apply to you guys, when jobs go out to bid to contractors, in the blueprints that come with the job, they have traffic control plans drawn, how the contractors are supposed to set up the traffic control. And that would involve what signs are needed, what time they can work, where they can work, how many cones they have to set up. Very, very detailed. And that's drawn up by an engineer, and it's approved through the bidding process. Then you have the manual and uniform traffic control devices. And for state highways, when these jobs go out to bid, they also have the special provisions. And in the special provisions is Chapter 645, which talks about specifically traffic control. And a lot of the information that's in this manual is based on that Section 645 of the special provisions of the DOT. So we did take some of the information from the manual and uniform traffic control device, which is the federal manual, and kind of took the better parts of that plus the better parts of Chapter 645 to make the information that's available in your book right now. Okay, so when you have to draw a plan, though, you want to identify everything that is involved. Understanding the width of the shoulder, locations of sidewalks, where driveways are, and what are the different components of the traffic control, where you're working, why you need to block the lanes you do. You know, one of the problems that guys have when I put on these classes, if I tell you, okay, you're supposed to put up signs 250 feet apart. So you go along, you measure 250 feet. First sign goes here. 250 feet away from that sign, there's a driveway. If it's 250 feet, do you have to put the sign in the middle of the driveway? Or you got to put it before or after the driveway? Well, common sense is you're not going to put the sign in the driveway, yeah? But then if you put it before the driveway, now you don't have 250 feet, right? Okay, the reason I bring that up is, as we go through some of the charts and stuff that are coming up, it's going to give you specific information. For this speed, you must set the signs this far apart. Boom, there's a number. Okay? All of that information, sign spacing, taper lengths, buffer spaces, cone spacing, that is guidance. Okay? That is not a hard set law that cannot be deviated from. Okay? Traffic control is a very complex thing. Like that slide I showed you with the guy flagging on the curve, yeah? Okay, there's a wide variety of situations that come up when you're doing traffic control, and you have to adapt to those things. Driveways, intersections, and so on, yeah? So the information in the charts that are going to come up is just guidance to give you an idea of what you're supposed to do. Okay, for instance, if the manual tells you you're supposed to put a cone every 25 feet, and you put the cones every 30 feet, is the cone police going to come and arrest you? No. There is, you know. Now, if an inspector showed up and reviewed the job site and you didn't have sufficient amount of cones, can the job site be shut down? Yes, the job site could be shut down. But more worse, let's say you're supposed to put the cones 25 feet apart, you put them 30 feet apart, somebody gets into an accident, and through that accident investigation, they find out you didn't put enough cones. Are you liable as a negligent party in a lawsuit? Yeah, you were negligent in your duty to put up the amount of cones that was required. So there may not be a law that requires you to put the cones 25 feet apart, but through the guidance, you should put the cones 25 feet apart so that you're not negligent. You know, and that's a subject we can talk about for a couple hours, but I'm just going to bring that to your attention that, you know, when you're out there working on the road, you as a responsible individual, part of your duty is to keep the motorist safe, to keep the pedestrian safe, and to keep your work crew safe, to keep yourself safe. And that's by following the guidance that is given to you. Now, if you're asked, oh, why didn't you put the cones 25 feet apart? I said, well, in that area, we put them 30 feet apart so our truck could pull out. Is that reasonable? Yeah, kind of makes sense, right? Oh, okay, maybe the cones were too tight to let the truck pull out. So you guys left a 30-foot gap over there instead of 25 feet. Okay, good judgment, reasonable. People can understand that. At least you have a reason why you did it, and you just like, oh, nah, we put them further apart because we didn't have enough cones. That's negligent versus doing something like going back to my 250-foot spacing with the signs. Why didn't you put the sign 250 feet away? Well, because I was in the middle of the driveway. So we put it on the other side of the driveway, and now the sign was 260 feet instead of 250. But is that reasonable? Yeah, that's reasonable, right? So there's a lot of flexibility in how you look at the traffic control. And when we talk about drawing traffic control plans, you take all that into consideration. Why are you going to put the stuff where you put it? You know, and a plan doesn't have to be drawn out. Like for you guys, you're the workers, yeah? You go out there, you look where you're going to work, and you guys decide how best to control the traffic where you're going to work. You know, on site, you make your own plan. Okay? You guys are not contractors. Okay, so Okay, I'm gonna try to speed this up. I know you guys are getting bored, yeah? But this is good stuff, and you guys should try and understand this. Basically, in any traffic control, there's 5 components. That's going to be the advanced warning area. Okay, that's where the signs go. Advanced warning, that's where the motorists get their information. In this case, that would be road work ahead, right lane closed ahead, and the merge symbol. Okay, you have your transition area. That's where the motorists get moved out of their normal path. Okay, they're in the right lane now. You want them to move to the left lane. Okay, you have your buffer space as part of your activity area, your buffer space and your workspace. The buffer space, that's a dead area with nothing in there, and it's used as a recovery area for vehicles that just don't quite merge and need a place to go so they don't crash. So that's that area right over here before the work actually starts, where if the motorist doesn't quite merge properly, they can pull in and stop before banging into something. The workspace, that's where everything happens, from your first piece of equipment to your last piece of equipment or where you're working. And then, of course, your transition area, your termination taper will let the motors get back to their normal path. No matter what you're doing, whether you're flagging, closing 1 lane on the highway, 2 lanes, these 5 components will always be there. You always got to have advanced warning, right? You got to put up some signs, right? Now, in this case, it shows a merging taper, but sometimes you're just going to move the motorist over a little bit. Say you're working on the shoulder, but you need a little bit of the travel lane, yeah? So you're going to kind of small shift them over. That's still a transition. You're kind of moving them out of their normal path, yeah? Buffer space, try to create that space where they don't quite move over. They got a place to recover before they run into you. You wouldn't be out there if you weren't working, so you're always going to have a workspace, but you got to define that. Where is the first and the last piece of equipment, or wherever we're working? Then the transition, try to give the people that indication, okay, the road is yours again. You can move back. Okay. All traffic control plans must meet the DOT standards, and basically that's the 645. Okay, so talking about advanced warning areas. Typically, we use 48 by 48 signs. A lot of times, my company will use 36 by 36 inch signs when we work in residential areas, downtown, Waikiki. Congested areas where there's not much space to put signs, we'll use a smaller sign. Typically, you guys will use the 48 by 48 inch signs. Obviously, and when we get to the chart, you'll see it, the sign spacing will be increased as the speed limit goes. You know, for 25 miles per hour, a couple 100 feet apart. If we're on H1 freeway, these signs that close would be totally useless. It'd just be a blur. Roadworks, something else, bye. You know. Remove signs when not in use. Why is that a good idea? You don't want to confuse the drivers. You don't want to give them false information. You know the story about the boy that cried wolf, yeah? People see signs up all day long, every day, and nobody working. Eventually the signs mean nothing, right? And that happens a lot. And that's why motorists sometimes ignore signs. They see it, nobody working, the sign will mean nothing. We don't want to train the motorists to ignore signs. So just put them up, use them. When you're done, take them down. Okay? And the signs need to be placed so they are not an obstruction or a hazard to others. And that's why I chose this slide. What is the potential problem with that sign where it's sitting right now? Pedestrians, yeah? If you're a pedestrian, where are you going to walk? In the road. Is that a good idea? Not really, yeah? Okay, so that's some of the stuff you're going to encounter when you're out doing traffic control. Where am I going to put the signs? Like in Maui, we had a job on Hana Highway, and we had to put all the signs They're working on the Malka side. We had to put all the signs on the Mackay side because, that section we were working, it was a cliff, road, guardrail, baby small shoulder, and then more cliff, you know. There was no way we're going to put signs on the right side of the road, on the Malka side. So we put all the signs for traffic heading out on the opposite side because that was the only place to put the signs. Our choice was put them on the opposite side or put nothing. We had to do what we had to do, yeah? And you're going to face that all the time.
How did it work out?
Nobody died. Fortunately, on a highway there, it's about 15 feet wide. Cars are doing 15 miles an hour. I mean, that's in the worstest area where it's only like 2 cars cannot pass at the same time. So it wasn't too bad. Okay, so in this situation, what would you do? You're going to have to do like we did and just hope for the best with the pedestrians, Because what's your biggest concern? The pedestrians or the motorists? There's more motorists that pass. If this was a high pedestrian way, they'd probably have a paved walkway for the pedestrians, yeah? Maybe a cement sidewalk or something. But 1 or 2 pedestrians, well, hopefully they're smart enough to figure it out. But this is the kind of stuff you're going to be faced with a lot, though. Okay, now getting back to what I was talking about. Here is one of the charts. And for this slide, we're going to talk about that sign spacing. Okay, so basically, everything to do with traffic control is based on speed limit. Okay, so speed limit 20 miles an hour, you're going to space your signs 250 feet apart. 20, 25, 30, 35 miles an hour. I'm sorry, 200 feet for 20, 25, and then 30, 35 miles per hour, 250 feet. As the speed limit goes up, you can see the distance goes up for the sign spacing, yeah? That's how far apart from one sign to the next. Okay? And as you can see, the tapers get longer. The buffer space gets longer. The channelizing devices get longer. The spacer gets wider. Okay, but as far as sign spacing, this is your basic information. Okay? Okay, now as far as, we talked earlier about don't set up traffic controls that are confusing, yeah? When you start shifting traffic around and you have driveways and multi-directional areas with intersections and stuff, it can get confusing. Sometimes motorists get a little confused. I mean, you got a sign right here, then this cute little taper right here that's shifting cars over. Okay, so this is a transition. Basically, you're shifting cars over. The reason this looks like this is because you have, like right behind this sign, you have a driveway. Go up further ahead, you got an intersection. So traffic control can be confusing depending on what you're doing. But you try to make it as clear as possible. And again, though, because this is in a slow speed area, 25 miles an hour, these tapers look like relatively short, yeah? But you can tell we've already merged the traffic over from the right lane into the left lane, and now we're just pushing them onto the opposite side of the road. So they're already down to a single lane, they're already kind of slow, now we're just guiding them along. But when you do traffic control in areas that have multi-direction, driveways and stuff, it does get a little confusing. And like I said earlier about, you try to set it up from the driver's perspective. When you set this up, try to think about how the drivers are going to negotiate through that traffic control, yeah? And if you're really confused, call GP Roadway, we'll come set it up for you. Okay, so the opposite of short taper is long taper. Okay, when you set up, this is a Leaky Highway, Kaneohe bound. This was a tree trimming project. They're cutting down the trees that were hanging over. Can you see the work crew? No, the work crew is not in this picture. The work crew is way down here. So why did we set up the traffic control right here? Better visibility for the motorists. They came up, they're at the top of a hill, they're coming down. They're able to see this from a good distance, well before the work area, nice long straight taper. And we did it, the work crew is working behind, around the curve. We did not want to set up the taper at the curve. And because this road kind of has that one riser, flattens out and rises again, this is the flattest, straightest area. So we set it up right there. But you can see 45 miles per hour, 500-foot taper, yeah? Clear, visible. Now this is one of the things you got to think about too when you set up your traffic control. Even though the crew is working around here, not even in the picture, we set up the traffic control back here so that for the motorist, they could see it clearly, merge over, and then get to where the work crew is actually working. So sometimes when you think about your traffic control, you have to look beyond us is working here, so let's put the cones right here. Sometimes you got to think from the motorist perspective, where's the best place to put it, the most visibility that will give us the safest transition. So that's what we did in this picture. Okay, so talking about traffic control devices, delineators, arrow boards, message boards, barricades, cones, all that stuff. Everything is a traffic control device. Even the flagman when he's flagging, that's a traffic control device. Okay? It's just a matter of how you use them, yeah? Okay, so traffic control devices should fulfill a need. There's got to be a reason why you put it out there. You cannot just put stuff for whatever. They need to command attention, meaning what? The motor's got to be able to see it, read it, understand it. If your orange and black sign is no longer orange, how many of you guys seen those kind of pinkish signs that because they're like 20 years old already and half the letters stay all scraped off already? You know what the sign says, but the motors cannot read? You know, motors are going to ignore that because they can't read it, yeah? It's got to convey a clear and simple message. You know, right lane closed ahead, road work ahead, shoulder closed ahead. You know, real simple, clear messages. You guys ever drive down and you see some signs that are spray painted by the contractor that say stuff you can't really understand? You know, yeah, homemade is good sometimes, but not when you're doing traffic control. You know, you want the motorists to be able to see it, recognize it. You guys see an orange sign when you're going down the road. What does that tell you automatic? Road construction, yeah? Orange signs, construction. Okay. To command the respect of the road users, it's got to look good, be presentable. And when you set up traffic control and put the devices out, you got to make sure they're set up so that you give the motorists the proper amount of time they need to respond how you want them to. In other words, put the right sign in the right place with enough spacing so they can merge, slow down, stop, change lanes, whatever. Yeah. But it's all got to be part of the planning process. What signs do we need? What are we going to do? How are we going to put it out there? Okay, so channelizing devices, they're used to warn road users of conditions created by work activities in or near the roadway and to guide road users. Oh, that's heavy, yeah? So basically what that says is you're going to put cones and other devices on the road to guide the motorist. Okay? In Hawaii, we don't use drums so much, but we do use a lot of cones and barricades. Even a temporary raised island can be used as a traffic control. And that's one of those things that gets put in with that long-term stationary kind of stuff. And that's kind of beyond what we do. And like I said, this slideshow can be used for your guys' bosses, yeah? So but we talk about other things. Okay, so here's some of the stuff you guys are familiar with. Yeah, okay. Back in the day, when I was a young man, we used to use 18-inch cones on the highway. That was like the early 80s. We used 18-inch cones for everything. I didn't care if we were on the highway or what. We used 18-inch cones for everything. Nowadays, I don't even use 18-inch cones for parking lots. To me, that's rubbish. The reason we don't use 18-inch cones anymore, we use all 28-inch cones for everything now. Why did we make that change as a company? Because the 18-inch cone get run over, yeah? These no longer command respect by the motorist. Motorists know they can run that over and they don't care. No big deal. It's not going to hurt their car. But you run over the 28-inch cone, well, you got a different story. Yeah, it's going to do more damage to your car. So, like I said, visibility, really, you can't see this on the highway, yeah? You're not going to use an 18-inch cone. Command respect of the road users. They don't respect that. They run that over. So we had to change with the times. As motorists got used to running those over and no matter, no care, we went with the bigger cones. Okay, so channelizing devices, when they're used, your spacing for tapers. Basically, to keep it simple for you guys, when you're setting up a taper and you're going to put the cones, just basically put the cones same as the speed limit. If your speed limit's 35 miles an hour, put the cones 35 feet apart. Pretty simple. And then same thing with the tangent. We'll get to that in a minute. Now in the MUTCD, the tangent, that's the section that runs along the work area. Basically for the MUTCD, you can go 35 feet on the taper and then 70 feet on the straightaway. You can double it, but the 645 says to keep it 35 all the way through. So cone spacing for you guys is simple. Speed limit equals distance. You guys can remember that much though, yeah?
So if it's 25, you put 25. So if it's 25 miles per hour,
25 feet apart. Not unless you have a good reason why you didn't. As like, there was a driveway right there, so we left a gap, something like that. So that's pretty much simple. You're going to put cones out, or delineators or barricades. Okay, boom. And again, here's that chart. So you can see, like, we were talking about 35 miles per hour. You're going to space your signs 250 feet apart. You're going to have a 120-foot buffer. Your cone spacing, 35 feet, 35 miles per hour. Boom. Pretty simple, yeah? Simple, yeah? Please say yes. Okay. If you fell asleep, raise your hand. Oh, two guys. Oh my God. All right. So in the book, they got some typical diagrams. Here, work beyond the shoulder, short duration. And what is short duration? One location up to an hour. So basically one sign, truck, and a strobe light, good to go. Working on a shoulder. If you're actually working on the shoulder, you're going to put more advanced warning signs and actually cone it off because you're working there, doing physical work right there, and you don't want motorists to. Now, why would you go through the process of putting a taper on the shoulder? If somebody has an emergency, say flat tire, you want them, if they pull over, to see that they cannot go straight, yeah? You want to guide, that's what tapers do. They guide motorists away from an area, right? If you just put a couple cones straight across, would that be the same? Not really, yeah? So even though you're not in the travel lane, you still want to guide the motorist away from your area. And that's why you set up a taper on the shoulder, even though it's not an area where cars are going to be merging or pushed out of their travelway. Again, it's like you got to think about how the motors see it. They come up, and you want to make sure they're guided away from where you're working. Okay, now, when we talk about taper lengths, let me go back a couple slides. Okay, so say your speed limit is 35 miles per hour. You're going to space your signs 250 feet. And then your taper is going to be 250 feet, yeah? Okay, so that's the part that guides the motors out of the travelway. You guys with me on that? Taper guides the motors out. Okay, now moving back to this slide. On the shoulder, you see where it says 1/3T? That stands for 1/3 the length of the taper. So if the regular merging taper was 250 feet, on the shoulder, 1/3 of 250 feet is about 83 feet, yeah? So say 85 feet. So because people don't drive on the shoulder, this taper only has to be 1/3 the length, or 85 feet, because people don't drive on there. The reason I'm pointing that out to you, because that's going to be that's one question on your quiz. Okay, so here we have like a mobile operation. Minor encroachment. Like I said, sometimes you're going to pinch a little bit off of the travelway, but you don't have to close the travelway. And again, all these diagrams are in your book. Here's your typical flagman. Now let's go back to what we were talking about, the components of a traffic control. Advanced warning area. How many advanced warning areas are there? 2, right? 1 in each direction, right? These signs make up the advanced warning area. Each sign is not an advanced warning area. They're a piece of the advanced warning area. Okay, so then you have your transition area, buffer space, work area, termination area. 5 components, just in a different configuration. Okay, right lane on a multi-lane road. So you have basic road work ahead, road work, right lane, merge symbol, arrow board, taper. If this speed limit was 35 miles an hour, how long would the taper be? 250 feet. We just talked about that 2 minutes ago. Okay? Again, who fell asleep? No. Okay. All right, and then short-term stationary. Okay. We can turn on the lights. Now we're going to do our group activity, our individual activity. Okay, going back to what we were talking about, creating a traffic control. I hope you guys are following along with the book, because this is in your book. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass out this sheet of paper. On this sheet of paper, there is a drawing which has some instructions on it. Okay, a couple for you guys. Okay, now read the instructions and we'll kind of go over it. And I'm going to have you guys draw your own traffic control plan. This is an open book thing, so hopefully you guys got, if I give you extra, don't throw the extra one at me. Yeah? 1, 2, 3. I got enough here. 1, 2. Hey, did everybody get one? Let me know if I didn't count correctly. Remember the part I told you I'm not very smart? This is where it comes in, right here. Okay. Everybody got one? Okay. So, you have been assigned to trim a tree. That's that squiggly looking thing over here? Right there, the tree, squiggly. I told you I'm not very smart, right? All right. You have been assigned to trim a tree that overhangs the right lane of a 2-lane roadway. In order to trim this tree, you are going to need to close the right lane in the southbound direction. Prior to starting work, you need to develop a traffic control plan. The speed limit is 35 miles an hour. What a coincidence, that's what we've been talking about, yeah? And the lane is 12 feet wide. The north and south lanes are divided by a 10-foot wide median, and there is an 8-foot wide shoulder in each direction. Work is scheduled to be done from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Okay, so basically you're gonna have to park equipment and put yourself on the roadway to trim this tree, yeah? You gotta guide motorists around it. So I'm going to ask you to draw a traffic control plan that would show how you're going to do this work safely. You guys have about as long as it takes me to go use the bathroom and grab a bottle of water, and then we will be right back at it. Oh, I can walk out with this thing on it. Excuse me. The bathroom?
Right next door.
Next door.
Right next door.
Okay. Quiet in here. How you guys doing? Okay, you guys just need a couple more minutes or good to go? Yeah, you got to think a little bit more in detail about it. Okay, I'll give you guys about 1 more minute. Oh, you guys get paid by the hour. You want me to give you 2 more hours? No. Okay, if somebody could catch the lights, then I'll put up the next slide. All right, thank you. Okay, so here's what I gave you, right? Okay, what were the 3 key things you needed to know to make this plan? Speed limit, where the work area was, and duration would be. All right, so the 3 key things was 1, the speed limit, 35 miles per hour, yeah? 12-foot wide road, and you're going to work from 9 to 2. So that's short-term duration. It's not mobile, right? So you got to put up all the signs and everything. Okay, so hopefully your plan looked kind of like this, but without the color. Did you guys put signs on both sides of the road? Okay, you have a divided median, right? You have a 10-foot wide median. If you have space, put signs on both sides of the road. Do the guys in the left lane need to know that the right lane is being closed? Wouldn't hurt. That way they don't merge into the right lane sooner or later. Plus, they know cars are going to merge from the right into their lane, yeah? That kind of gets them prepared as well. Okay, so what was your first sign? Road work ahead? Okay, was your sign spacing to your next sign 250 feet? Yes? No? Yeah? 250. Then your next sign was what? Right lane closed ahead? Sign spacing 250 feet to your merge symbol. Again, signs on both sides of the road. 250 feet. Arrow board at the beginning of your taper. Did you guys make a 250-foot long taper? How long was the buffer space? 120? 600. Yeah, 120, yeah. And then the work area. And what's the last thing at the end? Termination area would be cone, and then the end road work sign at the end. Okay, so that's your basic plan. And you got that information out of the book. We had the charts and had the typical drawings to follow, yeah? Kinda, yeah? No? Okay, who has any questions on that? Does that process kind of make sense to you guys? Okay, because basically you guys are the end user, and this is the kind of stuff, if you're going to set up traffic control, you got to think about, yeah? Where are you working? What's the speed limit? How long are we going to be there? Okay? Make sense? Okay, I got one more. Okay, we catch the lights. I got one more thing to hand out, then you won't have to see me ever again. And I know that makes you happy. Okay, I'm going to pass out a little quiz. I'm going to give you the answers before we do the quiz. One answer is true, the other answer is false. Now, not everybody thanked me at the same time for that. If you're ever in one of my other classes, let me give you the other answers. A, B, C, or D. But today it's either true or false. Let's see. Okay. Did everybody get one? Oh, which of the lights? Oh, that's it. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay. Okay, anybody need more time? Okay, let's get this over with. All right, number one, ANSI 107-2004 for Class 2 is the minimum required garment for working on the roadway. True or false? True. That is the minimum under what conditions? Daylight and speed limit less than 45, yeah? But because you guys go pretty much anywhere and everywhere doing your jobs, you should have a Class 3 vest anyway, in case you got to go out nighttime or whatever. Okay, visibility is a key component to working safely on the roadway. Yes. When working on the shoulder for a short term, that's less than 1 hour, an advance warning sign is always required. That would be false. Less than 1 hour, that'd be like your mobile. You can just go with a truck with a strobe light. Okay. Number 4, a shoulder taper is 1/4 the length of a merging taper. False. It is 1/3. Okay. The higher the speed limits, number 5, the higher the speed limits, the farther apart the sign spacing. True. Number 6, the length of a taper has nothing to do with the speed limit. False. Has everything to do with the speed limit. Okay, number 7, the end road work sign is found in the advanced warning area. False. That's part of which area? Termination area. Number 8, the transition area moves traffic out of its normal path. True. And that's either a merge or a shift, yeah? Number 9, hills, curves, and obstructions do not affect a motorist's visibility. That's false. Yeah, they have everything to do with visibility. And number 10, you must take down advance warning signs at the end of the day, even if you're going to work in the same place tomorrow. True. Okay, guys, I'm out of here.